The chittering masses of the Ratkin Slaves hurl themselves at the Riftforged legions. Hello everyone, Caffeinated Warlord here with a tournament battle report, one game at a time, one game per video. And this is from the tournament ConVic 2024, which was held in Victoria, Australia, in Down Under. It's 2 days of 6 games at 2,100 points, and it was a blast. It was fantastic. It's happened right now, as of recording this, about 3 weeks ago. And so I've finally gotten around, after doing that Riftforged Orc video just showing off the army. So I'd show it off first, and then let's show it in action as a kind of a nice last hurrah of using this particular list. So what list is it that I took to ConVic 2024? Well, it is one that we have seen many times before, maybe slightly varied, but we've finally gotten to what I think is the perfect version of this particular list. It's mostly infantry, with lots of shooting from the Amber Orcs, and yeah, mostly infantry. But I also have some Hellstrikers because you need that speed. So we have Unforged Orcs, a regiment. They're the cheapest unlock that you can get in the Riftforged Orc list that is still an Orc. So it's an unlocking thing. Then we have Riftforged Legionaries, a huge horde of them, because why not? Then we have Rift Walkers, which are an interesting kind of chaffy unit. They are like Wraiths, not quite as durable, but similar in that they're speed 7, nimble, and fearless. So they're good kind of a chaff unit. Hellstrikers are Dracons with Life Leech and Brutal. Then we have 3 Amber Orcs, Amber Oxen, perhaps is the plural, and they are pretty much the sole source of shooting. But unlike, say, a War Engine, they're great because they can also score. They have unit strength 1, so they have steady aim, so they can kind of go up with the army and get into interesting places. They can become chaff if required. They can hold a loot token if required. They're a serviceable little monster. Then we have the War Drum, also a monster, but this is a source of rally. It provides very good rally for Orc units, that is the OG Orcs, the original Orcs, so rally 2 to them, and just rally 1 to all Riftforged Orc units. So still improving that nerve amongst the Riftforged Orcs, which is good because they don't actually have their nerve kind of tweaked for War Drum usage, so a lot of the Orc units actually have lower nerve with the idea that they get better with their War Drums, so they have rally 2. Whereas the Riftforged don't have that particular deduction to their nerve, I think. I think that's what's going on. And then finally, we have the Stormforged Shrine of the final part of all the support required in this army. And the Stormforged Shrine is this centerpiece model. It's a giant, cool shrine model. You can take a look in my video. I think I did a pretty good job. And it has a host of spells: Bane Chant, Lightning Bolt, Host Shadow Beast, and Bane Chant and Host Shadow Beast it can cast again and again and again, but each time it casts them, it reduces the number of dice to cast them by 1. That first cast has to be at something you can see, but then every cast after that doesn't need line of sight. It's very complicated. It's got a lot of things going on in terms of just its casting, but then it's also got some attacks. It's a decent shrine unit, and it catches people out all the time. And please don't hex it. Please don't hex it. Then we have the Riftforger, a little hero that could, and it just goes around bashing people over the head with its crushing 3 melee attacks, 3 melee 3+ attacks, but it is one of the main targets for the Host Shadow Beast, so it's never too far away from my Stormforged Shrine. Then Thonar is the real beatstick. He has Thunderstruck with his Storm Strike ability, which means he can potentially spike up to like 10 damage if he hits and rolls just oh so perfectly. And that's from a 6 attack base, because he has explosive attacks when he rolls 5s and 6s. So that is Thonar, a fantastic hero to really just drop anything. It's very good to have some individuals that can go around and answer questions that your units cannot. Finally, I have the formation. It's the Iron Boots formation, and really what it means is that you get some really tough regiments. So you have these Riftforged Legionary regiments, 2 of them, they have improved nerve. You get a Reborn Legionary regiment, which also has improved nerve and provides inspiring. So the whole thing is really just to have very chunky regiments, and a slight bonus is that the Reborn Legionaries do have the Wild Charge aura for Orc only, so in this list it would only be the Unforged Orcs that are improved by that. But to me that's just really kind of, if it happens, cool, but I never really arrange for it, so very rarely does that ever come into play. So that is the army. Lots and lots of infantry. I've painted way too much metal, but after having painted it all and really tested myself and learned how to use this list, I think it's time to take it to ConVic, which is the real test for any list, and that is the 6 games over 2 days against, quite a reasonable number of people. We had 24 people attend, which is not the highest it's been, but it's still pretty good, considering a lot of the interstaters that normally turn up couldn't make it. So with that in mind, it was still very good attendance and a nice array of armies. There was no real triple up of any particular kind of army, so that you get a nice array of different experiences from game to game rather than 4 ogres in a row, for instance. So my first opponent, having mentioned ogres, could it have been ogres? Well, you've already seen the thumbnail of this video, so I would have already given it away, but it was Ratkin Slaves, as helmed by Hugh. So Hugh, I actually went against 2 years ago at Clash of Kings when he was just running the old Ratkin. So if you don't know, Hugh is or was part of the Direct Misfire podcast, which is an Australian podcast about Kings of War. Very nice to listen to. They're pretty on the money when they talk about a lot of different things, and they also just have one of the best intros, and they're quite witty in what they talk about. So there's a nice banter going on there, which you don't get when it's just me talking to myself. So Hugh was part of that. He was featuring heavily with his Ratkin Slaves. He always advocated for the Ratkin, not the Ratkin Slaves, sorry, I misspoke there. But in his last appearance, he was talking how the Ratkin Slaves were perhaps superior to Ratkin, which is a controversial opinion, but his opinion was based on the fact that he likes Ratkin, and adding Abyssal Dwarves should only make them better. And so here he is, money where his mouth is, taking the Ratkin Slaves to ConVic. And I am facing them. This is the first time I'm facing Ratkin Slaves, full stop. In fact, I think I've only gone against Ratkin the once, against you, and one other time against Oz. So twice, but Ratkin Slaves, I never thought I'd see the day. And so we're going to go a little bit slow through this list. So we have 2 hordes of slave warriors. So these are not the worst infantry, because those are defense 2. These are the next to worst infantry in the list. And they have both the last breath upgrade, which means when they perish, they will kind of do 2d3 piercing 2 hits, which is quite a lot. 2d3 is better than 1d6 because it kind of just changes the numbers a little bit, and that's just one thing that they can do. But so it's a horde. So your reward for getting through them is that you get a whole bunch of damage too, and then the next row of stuff should come through. So that's the kind of the Ratkin Slave shtick, is that you can give all kinds of different units the last breath upgrade, which will then, as they expire, they will then do this last breath effect and damage your units, and that will then make them more vulnerable to the subsequent combat. But what would be the subsequent stuff to take them out? Well, he has a trio of them, and that is the Decimators. So Decimators are essentially dwarves with flame cannons, just literally handheld flame cannons. So it's a huge horde of them, just capable of destroying anything that they shoot at. So got to watch out for that. But they only have 12-inch range, I believe. So they have to get close, and unfortunately, so do my Riftforged Orcs if they want to get into charge range. So that's something to be concerned about. Then we have Abyssal Half-Breeds, which are a cavalry regiment. They hit reasonably hard, but they're not on the upper end of attacks. They've only got 16 attacks, but they're quality attacks. So that's another thing that will be coming after the Slave Warriors are finally dealt with. And then we have Slave Tongue Runners, which are essentially the Doom Wheels, the chariots of the Ratkins. With Brew of Sharpness, and they have a lot of attacks, so the Brew of Sharpness puts them up to the melee 3+, and into a true hammer zone. So we've got those 3 units, but then we also have a few more support kind of units. So obviously there's this Ironcaster here with fireballs, so just there to just put in some fire and also provide some inspiring. So he's just a Fireball 12 definitely can take out something, and he gets vicious on that. So that's a pretty nasty fireball. So something is weakened already, he can just cook it right off. Then we have Kryza's Gore Impaler, which is a very impressive Gore Impaler in that it has improved stats across the board. So it hits like a truck. But if it kills something with unit strength 1 or more, it can actually do an overrun as if it was like an individual. So it can plow right through it, kill it, and then go into another combat right afterwards, which is a little bit terrifying because I like to lay out my army, and I do not like the idea that Kryza's Gore Impaler could just shoot right through it not like a needle, more like just a giant hammer blow crashing through all my poor orcs. And then we have an Overmaster on Ancient Winged Half-Breed. It's always a mouthful for that. So that's the dragon of the Abyssal Dwarfs, if you will, not just the Ratkin Slaves. It's a very powerful dragon because it's kind of like the Abyssal Archfiend if it got regeneration. So it's got regeneration 5+. So it's quite rare for any of these dragon models to have any form of self-healing, and regeneration's a pretty good one to have. So it's otherwise it's very much like your normal Titan dragon kind of unit, in that it has 9 to 10 attacks, melee 3. Like they usually just suffer from the fact that they have limited attacks, even though they're very good quality. But that means that sometimes when you're rolling, you just can whiff. You hit with only half, and then you're suddenly only doing like 4 damage, and you're stuck there. But yeah, I don't need to give a lecture on dragons. And then we have the formation, which is called the lowest of the low. And so this is a horde and 2 regiments of those slave warriors, and they all have to have the last breath upgrade. And they don't really change because of the lowest of the low formation. It's actually the Taskmaster on Chariot, which is an Abyssal Dwarf and Chariot, whipping them up, who has this out of the way worm, and he can actually point to a unit and make them on command die, like rout, and then they'll do their last breath effect. So the idea is you could have a unit completely like surrounded and then do it on command, or not surrounded and just get rid of it, so then you can then do your charge, because you can do it before all the charges. So it's a very nice way of, you can set up your big battle line, and then the Taskmaster and Chariot can just suddenly make a big nice gap that you've perfectly arranged your units to just go right through. So he is there to just clear the way, rather than just wait for the opponent to work their way through it, because sometimes you don't want to do that. You don't want to give them the ability to just kind of move their units just how they want them. You want to get the jump on them, and that's how you do it with the Taskmaster and Chariot. So here we are. I have learnt about Ratkin Slaves. I hope my audience has learnt about Ratkin Slaves, and now there's more awareness of Ratkin Slaves. That can only be a good thing.
Affiliation partner of the channel, Pathfinder Game Distribution, are the only exclusively Mantic stockists in Australia. So if you're in Australasia area and need some Mantic product, be it Kings of War, Firefight, Dead Zone or Terrain Crate, then check out Pathfinder Game Distribution. Use the link in the description below or the code Caffeinated Warlord for 15% off.
So here is the deployment, and we're playing Stockpile, one of the new scenarios. And so it looks simple because you've only got 3 tokens here, but they're piles of tokens. So this is a pile of 3, this is a pile of 2, and this is a pile of 2. So one in the middle is 3, and the 2 piles of 2 either side. You can only pick up 1 per turn, but with the unit that's on it. But you can accumulate them on a unit and score them all. So it's all fine in terms of the scoring. Now, when it came to deployment, you can see that my army has deployed. I know I'm getting very familiar with the size of my army in terms of it's got big bases. It needs a lot of room, and so I can usually quickly determine how I want to deploy it, and I do have now some rules in my brain about how I should deploy it. Rule 1, deploy it together, layer up. Rule 2 should be layer up. Rule 3, don't split the army up. And so following those rules, we've got the whole army is together. I've got some layers where I need to. The typical layers that I always have is I have my Rift Walkers behind because I don't want them to get shot off. I want to use them when it's necessary. And I have my Reborn Legionaries because they're one of the 3 sources of inspiring in my army list, and I need to keep them alive. So I keep them back, and there's nothing wrong with them coming in after something's been tenderized, because they come in with their quality crushing to attacks. And then And no splitting up the army is trying to resist the temptation to put the Hellstrikers anywhere but near my army. So here they are, just on the flank of it, just to offer a fast flank, rather than doing something stupid like, what if I could get them across behind all the buildings, and doing something like that, because as my caricature of a dumb voice suggests, it's not ever really something that works for me. Something will stop them there, something will kill them, something will shoot, it'll all just go badly. So don't do it. I'm trying not to be tempted to do it. It's something that's just not worth your time. So that's why I have it all deployed like this. So what do I have here? Let's point them out, because it's just Orc regiments, right? Well, we have Riftforged, this is the, I'm already getting tripped up. Riftforged Legionary unit right here. So that's one of the ones from the formation. Formation unit here, the other formation unit here. This is the Reborn. These are the Unforged Orcs. You can see them. They're kind of just brown, because that's what they are. They're just kind of just standard orcs running around in leathers and very scrappy armor. So I've got the original Mantic models, and then we have a horde of Riftforged Orcs right here in the center. I always like to plonk that down right in the middle, and you can see it's got a beeline for those tokens. And then we have interspersed between these units, I've got some Amber Oxen, so there's one Amber Oxen here, one back here, because I ran out of space, one over here on the far side. There's little Rift Forgers, just kind of not too far away from the Stormforged Shrine, like I told you. I always like to keep my War Drum near the Riftforged Legions, the Legionary Horde, because I want to bump them up to that 22-24 nice nerve level. And then over here there's Thonar and the Hellstrikers, because those Thonar's reasonably fast and can usually keep up with the Hellstrikers and can help kind of chaff things if he needs to, because he is mighty and he will get in the way. As you can see, I got a whole bunch of models that have fallen off because somehow in my journey some things slid around inside my box, because I don't use magnets. I really should, but I just kind of put down mats, and for some reason one of them just kind of slid around and bumped into all the others. So I had a few models to glue back on. So over the course of the game I was using my super glue to just be like, oop, you put that back on. So by the end of the game it was all looking spick and span again, but yeah, it's a bit decrepit right now. And so facing off against me, well, first it's a whole wall of Ratkin Slaves. So we've got a horde there, regiment, and horde. So these are all slave warriors. I couldn't say which ones are from the formation, and it doesn't really matter because you're just forced to take them and they don't get anything apart from, they all have their last breath upgrade, so there's no real difference. What I can tell you is this is the Taskmaster on Chariot, so that's the one that can do the get rid of a unit and make way, so it's like get out of the way worm, I think it's called. And then over here is that Ræce's Gore Impaler, the one that can really plow through a unit and hit again. Behind that, that's the Ancient Winged Half-Breed, as I will refer to it. We have the Abyssal Half-Breeds, that's the Decimator Horde, and then these are the Tunnel Runners. So the whole army, one big block, going down against my big block, with a whole bunch of tokens there to fight over. So let's take a look at the army a bit. So some of this is Hughes, and some of this is apparently Benson, so that's one of his friends, and also the host of the Direct Misfire podcast, and so he has Abyssal Dwarves, and so he's borrowed some Abyssal Dwarves to this. But yeah, how cool is this model here of the Ræce's Gore Impaler? And so we've got some warriors, lots of warriors, slave warriors. These ones are based for 6th edition, as he wanted to tell me, but you won't convert me. I will not play an old game. I didn't enjoy 6th edition when I was a little kid because it was far too confusing. I was too young. Anyway, that aside, so yeah, there we've got more warriors. There's the Decimators. These are, how cool are these Tunnel Runners looking, just rattling down the street. They look great. So very, very much an army that I appreciated looking at. I like the multi-basing. I like the mix of all these different Skaven models, because they're all from former Skaven models. But yeah, it's just a great army to look at, and I've played Hugh once before back at Clash of Kings, so I was very happy to do so again. And that's a dice on there to show something. Maybe I was shooting at it. But it's turn 1. Let's go, turn 1. So I got turn 1, I rolled off, I chose it, and I usually want to take it because I want to get up, get the jump and kind of make my claim, because orcs are slow, and if I have the ability to go forward and at the double and then kind of push my threat range out, I will. And so that's exactly what I've done here. I've moved up everything that could go at the double has, and the only thing that's slowed down were these guys are going through difficult terrain, because I just take up too much space. So the whole army moving up and claiming space, and the Amber Ops slowing down behind only because they want to start shooting. Hellstrikers being very tentative, I put them into the forest so that they obviously can see through the forest, and they themselves can kind of just take a look at everything. And even here I can put myself into charge range of, say, the Ræce's Gore Impaler, but I'm not really that worried because it would be a hindered charge into these defense 5 guys, and then they would be hit back with not only the Hellstrikers but also Thonar. So I think I'm pretty safe in just putting it up there and just saying, you want to come into a hindered terrain? Go ahead. So that's the question that I posed with that. How smart. This is perhaps showing some shooting, because I did do some shooting, but yeah, so over the whole game, my target will be this Taskmaster on Chariot, because he's defense 4, which is unfortunate for a Chariot Rider, but he's defense 4, and I'm going to take advantage of that, because it seems like a very powerful thing that's worth shooting, whereas shooting Ratkin Slaves and just peppering them with all kinds of shots, they're also defense 4, but they've got heaps of nerve, whereas getting rid of one of these sources of inspiring, because he doesn't have that many. The Ironcaster and the Abyssal, the half-breed, the ancient winged half-breed, all he has for inspiring. So taking one out would be very nice indeed. So in his turn, he has moved up surprisingly far, definitely into my charge range. So you can see all these slave warriors, and then it's kind of a decreasing line here, because what he did forget, because he has been playing a few different game systems, he was also saying he was playing Marvel Crisis Protocol as well, and I don't know if they have difficult terrain, but apparently the difficult terrain doesn't slow you down, because he started moving through it, and I'm like, oh, I don't think you can go at the double through it, and he's like, oh, shit, oh, okay, I probably wouldn't have deployed there. So yeah, unfortunately, his whole army had to slow down a bit there going through it, and so that's why this half is not up here with this half, because I think his whole intention was to move up in one big solid line. But I mean, I'd like to do that too, but my orcs had to be left behind. So yes, the terrain impacting the game, which is generally what you want to see. But what he did do was he sent in Ræce's Gore Impaler with the hope that he will smash through and hit my sweet Reborn Legionary behind. So Ræce's Gore Impaler the first charge on the first turn, which is definitely a bold thing to do. And so with picture, what have we changed here? It's probably just a better shot. Good on me. 4 damage though from that, because it is a very variable number of attacks that are put through. I think it has like D6 and it has Rampage, so it can really go up high, but it can also go very, very low. And I think regardless of what kind of number of attacks he managed to roll, it was actually his hits. I think his hits were dismal, a terrible roll, and just 4 damage. So 4 damage will not break this 15-17 regiment, because it is, thanks to the formation, quite tough. But he did get lucky with his nerve roll, so he managed to waver them, so that at least it's kind of holding me up, because I'm not going to be able to get my Stormforged Shrine with its Fury Aura over to fix this situation up. So turn 2, I'm going to be a bit stymied. So here we are in turn 2, showing a whole overview of the carnage that's happened. This is turn 2, right? And he came up as fast as I came up, so I was like, let's start charging. So I've got my legionary horde here into one of his slave warrior hordes. To protect my flank, I have a Riftwalker, the Riftwalker troop that just zipped over there like chaff will. So hopefully they'll stop that other Ratkin horde. Although I shouldn't be really worried about a flank from a Ratkin slave warrior horde. I mean, nearly 5+. I've rolled that with goblins flanking, rearing, and you'd be surprised. Well, you probably wouldn't be, but like just a dismal amount of damage is usually done. But you're wasting so much time on the clock. Then also holding up this regiment here, I've got the Riftforged that goes in. I'm even optimistic he might be able to do it all by himself, because this guy can definitely do a real amount of damage when he's get the Host Shadow Beast up. And at the same time, I've managed to get the Unforged Orcs, which could see the flank of the Ræce's Gore Impaler, as well as Thonar. Both have gone in to sandwich the Gore Impaler and hopefully take it out, while these guys are just wavered and sitting there. And I think I've moved my Hellstrikers but a little bit, but they're just really just sitting there waiting. Their threat range of the 20 inches has caused him to move back his Abyssal half-breed, winged half-breed back, because he just doesn't want that get charged. So yeah, that's the good thing about moving up first, is you really just set the boundaries of where they want to go. They just once you cross that boundary, you may get attacked, and so being able to go first, I can push that out myself, which Riftforged Orcs definitely prefer to do rather than be on the back foot, because we don't like walking forward into a threat. That's my insight over these games. And so yeah, we go doing some shooting, managed to waver the Taskmaster, so up to 7 damage from all the Amber Oxes that could see it, because we can get some on a hill, and this thing's high 4, or high 3 at least, around all the high 2 Ratkin, so it's always something that's pretty easy to spot. And to no one's surprise, the Riftforged Legionary Horde managed to absolutely smash these little Ratkin Slave Warriors, and they do their last breath attack, but it's just a couple damage, not too bad. Here we managed to destroy the Gore Impaler, so it did not manage to go through and do its crazy impaling, and we just turned to face the front. And 4 damage from the Riftforger, so that was obviously with the Host Shadow Beast, but not enough to rout these guys. But at least we've stopped them in their tracks. So yeah, here we go into his turn. So in his turn, we've got the Tunnel Runners going into the legionary horde. So that is not so good, but that's how his army works. You take out the thing in the front, you get a bit damaged, and then in comes the real hammers. So that's the sharpness tunnel runners there. We've also got my Riftwalkers doing their job, chaffing up some horde of slave warriors. The other slave warriors decide to go into Thona, and so obviously when you charge or individual, the individual is the one that then you charge directly at it, the individual lines, and then the unit shuffles to center as much as it can. So that's why Thona has gone and moved a little bit. So that's how he's sitting there, while the Unforged Orcs are doing a very good job of chaffing, because they sat there and have attracted the attention of the Abyssal Winged Half-Breed and the Abyssal Half-Breed Cavalry. So they've all gone in. I believe one's hinted, one's not, but they're going into the Unforged Orcs with the idea of popping them and, well, just seeing he just needs to start killing things. And finally, the Decimators are out of their terrain, ready to ignite whatever will survive. So there's a whole lot of combats. Oh, and the War Drum even got attacked, which is a little bit rude. But yeah, these guys I think were here next to this regiment and just went boom into the. I also made way for the Abyssal Half-Breeds to actually get to the Unforged Orcs. So that's just all the geometry that's going on. So many charges. It's utter carnage, right? And so the Riftwalkers surprisingly get destroyed by those. Just a horde of Ratkin, so they're hitting on 5s, wounding on 5s. It's not much. It shouldn't break through them, I would have thought, but I guess we're outside inspiring range, so just a good nerve roll will do the job. 1 damage on the War Drum, that's fine. No damage on the Riftforger, so he's going to be angry. But the Unforged Orcs, they are pretty much a chaff piece in my army, so it's no surprise that they lost them to the half-breeds, both the big one and the mini one. So the half-breeds take him out, and he's just trying to wrangle them in such a way that he will not get hit by the Hellstrikers, because he's very fearful of these Hellstrikers hitting these guys. So he's just checking ways he can stop that. 2 damage on Thona, but didn't break him, which that is the case, because Thona has a high nerve, 14-16, and he's defense 5 and mighty. So it's just like stop, and yeah, so. That's good. Turn 3. Well, turn 3, it just doesn't stop from there. You can see that even more things are happening, and it's all happening in a smaller part of the battlefield. I can not even look at this forest anymore, because guess what? Poor Hugh was worried so much about flanks into things like half-breeds and such. He did not take a look to see if his Decimators, which were so trying to hurry through that difficult terrain to get out and start shooting things, he didn't notice that they were giving a flank to my Hellstrikers, albeit it's a flank that will be hindered, so it's unlikely that they'll destroy them, because these Decimators are still pretty tough, high nerve, pretty good defense for a range unit, but it does mean that my Hellstrikers are now in a position he doesn't want them to be in. So I've now managed to get into the backfield in a flank, looking down at the rest of his army. So I'll just see how long it takes me to chew through all these armored tasty orcs, and then move on to the rest of his army. At the same time, I've managed to countercharge here against the tunnel runners. He obviously sustained a significant amount of damage. I believe it's 10, so I've taken 10 damage so far, and hopefully in the countercharge I can take them out. We've got the Riftforged Legionary from the formation going into this horde of Ratkin Slaves, which have now picked up a token. The scenario is happening now. Who'd have thought? And actually the whole time my Riftforged Legionaries have been participating in the scenario, just picking up token. So they've got 2 tokens on there, so that's the good thing about just getting into a combat right on top of that 3 token area. Downside is I might lose them, but we'll see how we go. So countercharges abound, and then my Reborn Legionaries, the one with Crushing 2, have gone into the Abyssal Half-Breed Cavalry, so they're not going to enjoy that. While this horde that was stuck into Thona is now getting flanked by the Riftforged Legionaries that were here on the hill, so they've charged off. These were the ones that were wavered by the Gore Impaler. So it's just, this is kind of the good thing about having layers to the armies. When one thing is removed, out can come another thing. You just need to make sure, and I need to make sure, because I don't always do this, that there is a gap and a way for the units behind to directly engage straight away. You don't want to just leave it with no consequences. And the Amber Oxers continue to shoot the Taskmaster out there at the back, because this guy can see it, this guy can see it, this guy can see it. They can all shoot it, and so poor Hugh's just like, oh, my Taskmaster, because he's just stuck here. He can't do anything. But the Riftforged Orcs roll rather dismally into this horde. So I think it's like 8 damage into the tunnel runners. So yeah, not the best, these guys. They didn't manage to take it out. The Decimators also managed to survive, only 9 damage, but you know, when it's 36 attacks, that's pretty good, but it's hitting on 4s, they've lost their Thunderous, so it's just like, and I just rolled a little bit under, so yeah, 9 damage, that's definitely not going to get rid of them. I need to be much higher than that, but the combined flank and Thonar will take out a horde of Ratkin Slave warriors, no problem, so that's gone. So now we've got a Thonar on his own devices, ready to go. And hey, the Riftforger that could managed to take out the slave warriors by the slave warrior regiment all by himself, and so now he's free to cause yet more chaos. I told you, this guy cannot be stopped. And here, just 4 damage, but we were hindered. So you know, these regiments do have a low number of attacks, just 12. We came out of the forest, so what are you going to do? At least we're kind of holding them up. We're getting started, and hopefully we won't die for our efforts. So this is his turn, so Hugh's turn 3. And so he's managed to, finally, the Taskmaster was not wavered. It has suffered some more damage, but it gets to join into the combat on this now damaged already Legion horde. So we've got Tunnel Runners and the Taskmaster Chariot, so that's going to be probably the end of Legion, Legionaries. And there's all kind of counter charges going on, and the War Drum's going to continue to get drummed, and then we have the Abyssal Half-Breeds weren't taken out, so they're going back into the Reborn. And at the same time, we have the Overmaster flanking the Reborn. So that's probably the end of the Reborn. They just didn't manage to kill it. I mean, I didn't have a picture here. Yeah, 5 damage. Oh, come on, guys. 5 damage. So yeah, with that, and they managed to do some regen. So yeah, that's the punishment that they get. And the Decimators have turned to fight the Hellstrikers. And so some damage here. A little bit of damage here, but the Hellstrikers are okay because I don't think these guys are really meant for melee, so just 3 damage there, not too bad. But no surprise, when you have a flank from a dragon, it's bad times. And so yeah, those Reborn Legionaries came in, they struggled, and now they're dead. Blurry action shot shows the demise of the War Drum, but it's okay. No, it's not, because at the same time, I don't know if we had a picture for it, but the horde, that horde there, is gone. So I've lost my Orc Horde as well. So Rally is gone, the Giant Orc Horde is gone, and now the 2 tokens I have are on the Tunnel Runners, with 1 token in that area still sitting there for the taking. Turn 4. Well, that was a good revenge from Hugh. He's bringing it back after that. He was definitely shocked when he gave up that flank to the Hellstrikers, but he's bringing it back. He's managed to hold his own, take out some things. He's still got the Tunnel Runners, but he did not account for the superhero in my army, and that is the Riftforger. So the Riftforger, having finished off personally about 20 Ratkin by himself, has now turned his attention to these big wheelie things, and he's just going to essentially Thor hammer his way through them and obliterate them. So how's that for Marvel Crisis Protocol? And then we have, well, over here, what's happened? He's turned the Abyssal, yes, he's turned his Abyssal Half-Breeds around because he realizes that he wanted to reform to face the Hellstrikers just to keep them in check. So yeah, that's reasonable. But yeah, so what I've gone Riftforger into there, trying to shoot more of the Chariot guy because he's put a token on the Chariot and a token on the Tunnel Runners. And then my other Amber Orcs is doing exactly what I said they can do, is, you know, they can actually hold some tokens. So it's gone off to hold one of the tokens over here, while another one is on my Riftforged regiment here, which has attacked his Abyssal Half-Breed. Winged half-breed, while I also have Thonar, which is supposed to be into the half-breed here, but he just couldn't fit because of all the wings everywhere. It's just all cool wings. And so, well, what can I say? The Riftforger is not to be trifled with. The Riftforger, while he cannot pick up the tokens, he doesn't care. He only cares for destruction and the demise of all things that are technical and witty. And so he's gone over there with his anvil and his hammer and destroyed these really good rats. 10 damage is what he got it up to. Obviously they were damaged a bit already, but that was enough with a good roll of nerve to remove them. And then over here, we're still trying to put the damage down and get rid of this horde. And it's slowly stacking up, 11 damage, but yeah, they're only just wavering. So we're still stuck here, and we're giving a flank to this Taskmaster and Chariot, but thankfully that's also wavering. Thanks to my Amber Orcs shooting. Go Amber Orcses. The Decimators couldn't take another turn, and this time it was a turn where we were not hindered, so we were able to hit them with the full melee 3, even if it's still just crushing 1, and so that was enough to get through them. And now we've got a nice view to everything behind. And what else do we have? Well, it's the other superhero, Thonar, managed to personally take out the Abyssal Half-Breed Cavalry. So that's why there's no cavalry, there's only Thonar. There is only Thonar. And so that's not too bad at all. We've cleared up house. The Overmaster on Ancient Winged Half-Breed has obviously managed to sustain the damage from the Riftforged Horde, but yeah, it's these guys have got 6 damage, so they're probably going to die soon, but at least they've already put some damage on it, and he has a whole bunch of Hellstrikers in his back. And so in Hugh's turn, what does he manage to do? Is this showing Hugh's turn, or is it just showing the devastation? This was where I took a picture of something, and I do not know what. Oh, maybe it's a fireball. Yes, it's him trying to fireball me, and I think it just absolutely failed. I think there was terrible rolling. But he does charge off into the Stormforged Shrine, because I have a flank there, because I was just focusing on... Well, I really just wasn't caring. I was thinking, like, slave warriors, I don't care. And then here, the Overmaster managed to take the token off the dead legionaries, so he's finished off that regiment, taken the token, but it's not the kind of thing you want a token on, because... Yeah, he wants to be fast and zipping around, but now he's going to be slow, and he's still going to get a front charge from bloody Hellstrikers. So we'll see how that goes. 6 damage onto the shrine is not bad, but it still needs an incredibly high roll twice to take it off, because it is a fearless, well, piece of masonry. Turn 5. Well, it came to pass. The Hellstrikers go into the front of the Overmaster or Ancient Winged Half-Breed. The shrine has just kind of wandered off because it's like, I don't care. And at the same time, Amberox has gone off a hill and done a rear charge. So, you know, if any time Amberox is going to do well in combat, it's going to be now. And the Riftforged is trying to take out this Taskmaster on Chariot because it needs to die. I think I've got like 11 damage on it, and it's still there. I've wavered it at least twice during this game, but still haven't managed to take it down properly. Oh, no, I know what happened with the fireball. That fireball took out Thonar. Thonar's gone. Oh, so yeah, that Ironcaster paid for himself with 1 fireball. He didn't really cast much all game because he was never really in the right spot, and everything that was near him was in combat, but finally he managed to get Thonar because he had 6 damage on it. Yes, there we go. Well, Ironcaster, not bad, not bad. Yeah, so there we go. I decided to start shooting at him because I realized that fireball was pretty neat. So this is the Amberox with really nothing else to shoot at on the battlefield. So these two just shot at him. And then down here, yeah, so combats are abounding. 5 damage, not much. So you know, it's an Amberox in the butt. It's still only 9 attacks with no crushing. Here, the blurry action shot shows that I don't think I did any damage. I think I missed because I didn't have a Host Shadow Beast to cast, and it's only just 3 attacks. So yeah, what are you going to do? And so in response, so this is quick because we're getting to the end of the game. But by failing to take any damage on this guy, he could just, I mean, he could still zip off anyway. But it's particularly bad. I didn't even get a chance to roll the nerve to try and take him off or waver him. So he could rush off into the flank of my Riftforged Legionaries, who had done so well getting all that damage onto this horde of Ratkin Slave Warriors. And so the Slave Warriors are rescued by the Taskmaster at the last minute. They've got 11 damage on them, they've got 2 tokens on them, and so does, this guy's got 1 token as well. So yeah, suddenly there's 3 tokens here, but there's a lot of 11 damage on each of these. But, you know, it's kind of heroic where he just kind of got his nerve back together and decided that he would actually save those that he has enslaved. Isn't that kind of nice? So it's into turn 6, and I need to get these tokens. So I've just sent an Amberox in. I think what we've got here is actually we've gone from turn 6 into Hugh's turn 6, because I was just doing my turn 6. So Chariot's gone. That's cool. At the same time, I think my Amberox was into the flank of the Chariot, or something like that, and managed to get the token off him, because that's the only way I can see that this Amberox got a token. So let's just say that. This is the minor details. But then in Hugh's turn, he has then charged this Amberox, which has not taken any damage, but he's got a rear from... Well, it's all hindered. It's lots of hindered slaves. Horde in the front, regiment in the rear. Is it enough to kill it and get that token back? I don't know. Let's see. And I don't think it was, because that's the end. So I think he just managed to do like a dismal amount of wounds for all the rolling he did. I still get to keep that token there. Each of the other Amberoxes, the Amberoxen, if you will, have managed to get tokens, and then also the Hellstrikers have a token. And I even think the Stormforged Shrine got a token, because we just had to pick them up off the floor here where the Tunnel Runners had dropped them. So it's 4 tokens to 2 tokens in the end. If there was a turn 7, he might have taken this out and gotten this, and maybe the Fireball guy could have got his shit together and maybe taken out an Ambrox and maybe put it to a draw, maybe, but turn 6 was where it ended, and it was a Riftforged victory. And it was a fantastic game against you. I really enjoyed it. Ratkin Slaves, finally got to play them and understand just kind of how they work and how an army of them might be actually useful. And I can kind of see how Hugh got to the conclusion that perhaps Ratkin Slaves are good. But the one thing that he did not count on, and he just thought carried right over from Ratkin, was that he thought that the Ratkin hordes had rally, because obviously in the Ratkin normal list, hordes of Ratkin warriors have rally 1. Which is great, so you just have a bunch of hordes, and same with you get some nightmares, they have rally. But unfortunately, slave warriors do not have the rally. They're a little bit cheaper, but for that they lose a crucial thing, and that is the rally. And I don't think he quite realized that. So it's not quite an army where you say, I got Ratkin, and then I also get Abyssal Dwarves, because the Ratkin get worse, and then you get Abyssal Dwarves. So it's not quite good. But I think by the end of the game, the whole tournament, he managed to do quite well. So, despite getting eaten by some Hellstrikers, I think his army managed to show that the Ratkin Slaves are not a dud list. There's still definitely some fun to be had there and some good tactics to be used. But yeah, it's definitely not the best list, because there's just I think, well, no, I shouldn't say that. No, it's what's a best list? Any list can be good or bad. My list is certainly not optimal. No, I think there's definitely lots of fun there, especially with the idea that you can have that row of just flesh of just the Ratkin Slaves, and that at any moment they'll just explode and do damage, and then in comes the really powerful things to take it over. It was a really cool idea, and it really did make me pause. But the fact you didn't notice that flank with the Decimators is what saved it for me. It's just having my Hellstrikers there lurking, waiting. When am I going to get something? And they got something, and that just obviously. So this was a good game, and now it means I'm going on to another person who's won, and so that's the submarining is out of the question. It's just time to see how far I can fly. So that's game 1 done, victory for Riftforged Orcs. Let's see where we go to next. So until then, please like and subscribe. Tell me what you think I should have done differently, or you can chastise me for my video, or you can chastise me for being so mean to Ratkin Slaves, because they don't happen enough, and if I beat them like this, will they ever come back? Who knows? Do you think Ratkin Slaves should be an army? That's like another fun, controversial topic. Discuss that perhaps if you want. Should Riftforged Orcs be an army? Should Orcs be an army? Maybe I should have a video just about who should be armies. But all that aside, the most important thing to remember is to keep caffeinated.